Around the 2007, 2008, well, my grandmother lost her house and my father lost his house, and with that I ended up becoming homeless at the age of 16. At the age of 20, I had a moped. I didn't have my own place. I was kind of couch surfing on different people's couches, and I was crossing the street one day and I got hit by a car. I went through the windshield of the car because there was a city truck in the middle of the road kind of fixing the road. As I crossed the street, I didn't see this car coming and she didn't see me coming either. And all of a sudden, from going on my moped, I could see the back seat of a Toyota, and then all of a sudden I was on the ground. But what happened was, I guess I flew through her windshield, and then I'm just looking at her back seat, and all of a sudden she hit the brakes and stopped, and I flew 20 feet out of the car, landed on asphalt, and then I tried to stand up. And I didn't really believe anything just happened. I felt like I was just dreaming, so I just stood up and like, whoa. And all of a sudden my leg just crumpled, and I fell back down. And as I got to the hospital, the doctors came in and let me know that my leg was shattered. I had Johnson's disease, which meant my leg was just filling up with blood. My tibia and fibula were shattered in 6 different places, and they told me most likely I would never walk again. And my first response was, how am I going to skateboard? After some surgery, the doctors were able to save my leg. This was a period of time where I was truly just at rock bottom. I really didn't have anything. My moped was now destroyed. I didn't have really anywhere to stay but on a friend's couch. I owed a whole lot of money, especially I got a message from a tow company that picked up my scooter that I owed them $500 for just taking it away. My girlfriend at that period, she played this song. It was a stupid song that I was like, why would you listen to this? Just in the type of mindset I was in back in the day. But in that moment, when she started playing that, Jack Johnson's radio, she started playing all music I kind of thought was stupid, but I'm just like, whatever. And then that song came on, and just thinking about, you know, hope over the rainbow and what could possibly be. And I just remember just fucking crying and just thinking like, what could possibly be? And so I told myself, if I made out of this situation, I was going to do better. I did not know what I was going to do, but I was going to do something. A few months later, after relearning how to walk, enrolled back into school, back into St. Petersburg College, and I started studying. It started just making sense to me, and I was able to kind of pick it up. And after doing Spanish 1, 2, and 3 in 1 full year, I had a teacher who told me about an opportunity to go study Spanish in Spain. And I'm like, oh wow, that'd be amazing. But obviously my first response was like, how am I gonna pay for that? Like, no, what? My parents don't help me with this. She informed me of some of the funding that was available, scholarships, grants, and all these different things, and I started applying for them. And I never really believed I could ever go. It's like, come on, like people like me don't just go to Spain. Like, what? You know, the grants came in, the ticket came in, and then even as I was in the airport, like going to the flight, I still didn't believe it was possible. But no, I ended up on the plane and I got to Madrid, and I was absolutely ecstatic. I just had my skateboard and I was just going all throughout the town, just skating, just seeing everything. It was an amazing experience. I learned to ride horses. I learned, you know, Spanish culture, Spanish history. Got the opportunity to immerse myself in a place where people spoke Spanish and got to really learn how to use it. And I got really good at it. And so from there, like I really just kind of, it changed me as a person, completely changed my outlook. And then while we were there, we also had this internship. I was just like, you know, whatever opportunities are out there, I'm in Spain, I want to do everything that's possible for me to do while I'm there, because I'll probably never be there again. So one of the opportunities was to help at this food bank in Salamanca. And I was like, yeah, no, I would love to do that. And while we were there, we were passing out food to the different groups that were coming out to help people, or even some individuals themselves. I got to learn, you know, the different words for all the different fruits or foods, and a lot of counting as well. And one of the most amazing things was after it all, we would get to hang out with the locals, sit there, and they would bring us homemade sausages, homemade bread, homemade wine, and we're sitting there just drinking and talking in their local language. And like I would talk to some of them and hear about like how the 2008 crisis affected them and made them homeless, made their lives a lot harder, and made it so that they couldn't really afford to live anymore. And it's like, I truly understood what they meant. It was like, I could relate with them so much, but we're from completely different places. And like, this just absolutely shocked me, and I learned this, like, that was like my first inkling that, you know, we're all kind of like the same. It's like, yeah, these people are way in Spain and whatever, but we've got a lot of stuff in common. And that blew my mind. And then from all of these experiences, I decided, it's like, what I wanted to do with my life was going to be traveling, helping, and learning. This is what, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but it was going to include these things. And then while I was there, I also found this painting, this mural, that kind of told me, you know, leave your fears behind. And that's one thing that I really had to learn. It's like, all these things are out here, but my ignorance of it and my fear that I can't do it is the things that's stopping me from it. But once you know of something, there's nothing stopping you from doing it but yourself. And so when I got back home that next year, my only focus was to study abroad. I just knew that I was going to continue traveling. And I wanted to go see all my friends back in Ireland, back in France. And I was also watching a lot of TED Talks. I got real big into TED Talks. It was really the only thing I watched that entire year. And so what I watched was on The Secret. And he talked about how to do anything is to envision it, that it's already happening, that there's no question about it. And so I wrote up a map of all of Europe, and I was like, I'm gonna go visit here, I'm gonna visit here, I'm gonna visit here. I also wrote up how much it would cost for all these different places. I did the math, and I saw it was going to be $13,000 for 2 study abroads in a month backpacking Europe. And I said, oh, I can't afford that. But I wasn't gonna let that fear stop me. All I knew was I'm just going to push for it. Whether it happens or not, I'm going for it. Nothing's going to stop me from trying. And so that entire year, I really didn't go out a lot. But a friend gave me for Christmas, I didn't really celebrate Christmas, but he gave me for Christmas a high school Latin book that his older brother had stolen years back. And like, it was the most amazing Christmas gift I had ever gotten, because of what, like, I was really big into Spanish, and also I started to learn French because one of the girls that I had met while we were there in Spain, I was continually talking with her, and she was learning English and I was learning French, and we were kind of learning from each other there. And so that whole year I was watching TED Talks, I'm learning French in class, I'm doing Duolingo, and then I'm reading this Latin book. And it was really amazing. As I'm learning through this book, I see that, you know, throughout Latin you can find Italian words, you can find English words, you can find Spanish words, and it's just like all just put together. One of the most interesting words I found was like I am, or iam, I-A-M, which means now. And so we took that in English to say, you know, to preposition for an action. It's like, what are you doing? Where are you? Now, writing. I am writing. Or I am escribit, which is scribble, but it means writing. And then you get the word scribe or script, and all these other really interesting words that just come from Latin. So I found that to be absolutely amazing. And so I just got really big into the languages. After a few months, I land in Ireland, Dublin, Ireland. And here we learned about the troubles of Ireland as I was studying social psychology. And we learned of how the IRA in the north in Belfast that were part of the English, and then you had the Irish liberation movement who were in the south, who was the rest of Ireland, trying to get the English out of Ireland to stop occupying them. From there, once we were done in Ireland, I had to leave Ireland all by myself and make my way back to my room in Spain, to the same room I stayed in the year before. And I was absolutely terrified. I had no idea how to get to Spain from here. I'm by myself. I'm just, whew. And I had my book bag, but on my way out, I saw this sign from Muhammad Ali. There's this quote that said, "Those who fear change will never do anything." And so with that, I just knew that I had to continue on and travel through Europe all by myself to get to Spain. Alright, and then after leaving Ireland, I was backpacking Europe. I also did WOOF, which is Worldwide Organization on Organic Farms, WWOOF.com. And this, you are able to kind of travel through the world a little cheaper because you can stay somewhere and have food and shelter, but you do have to work for maybe 4 to 8 hours a day for 4 to 5 days a week, depending on the area. But so while we were doing this, while I was traveling around, I stopped in France, Picardy, France, about an hour from Paris. There I wolfed on an all-organic farm, and then eventually I made my way back to Spain, back to my same bedroom in Salamanca, Spain, in the same apartment with the same host mother, and I was so gracious and appreciative once I finally got there, and for everyone that assisted me in getting there. It was such a long story for that whole backpacking journey, but again, another amazing thing that I learned, just like how to get around and how people can be very helpful. Just for me being, I really was in my element. I loved the place, I loved meeting new people, I loved speaking the language, and it was really awesome. And then after that, once I got back home, I had to graduate from St. Petersburg College. So the first person in my family to go to university, the University of South Florida. We had to figure out how am I going to study abroad. And so I figured I had spent enough time in Europe and I wanted to see what South America was like. And there was a program going to Argentina to learn human rights, and I thought that would be very amazing. So I did a little more research on Buenos Aires. I would have learned that it was the Paris of the South America, so it really was like Europe. And also, they had a blanqueamiento, or whitening, in South America, or in Argentina. So there are basically no black people there, about like 0.1%, aside from their indigenous that they act like doesn't exist. For the black people there, their president said in 2012, we do not have black people. That is a Brazilian problem. And so while I was there, you would have little kids that would walk past me and they would just say to their mom, "Mama, ¿qué es eso?" Or "Mommy, what is that?" It was very just an interesting place to be. And we learned of human rights, of the UN charters, of the Cold War, Operation Condor, and just how the U.S. Affected different governments throughout South America, how dictatorships, military dictatorships came and went, and also just how dictatorships go throughout the world, whether it's in the Middle East, in Africa, in South America. So it was really interesting to learn, especially in the summer of 2016, right before the presidential election was happening. And so I had to go back home, and then this was my final year before I had to graduate. And so I decided I really wanted to go visit Brazil for the people I met over there, but I've also wanted to visit Mexico. And so I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I was going to do at least 2 study abroads. And so there was 2 in Brazil, one that was only a week long for spring break, one in the summer. I know I could at least afford the one in spring break. But then there was also a study abroad in Mexico in the summer, and so I'm thinking I'm going to choose between, at the very least, just the spring break one, if not at least 2 of these. And then so I signed up for many different scholarships, including the Gilman Scholarship, and I ended up getting that one for $5,000 by just writing an essay on why I wanted to study abroad, how much it would affect me in my future, and how I could help others and affect others with this as well. And then I also came up with an idea to spread this idea of studying abroad, and we were planning a study abroad fair for Greek students and freshmen, just for us to do our own non-faculty led study abroad. And so we've been doing that to this day. I got that scholarship, and so I'm looking here at my funds, and I said, I'm gonna do all 3 trips. And so yeah, I signed up for all 3. And so first, in spring break is where I first went to Brazil. I went to Bauru, Sao Paulo, where we studied at USP. We studied hearing and speech impediments, and as a linguist-focused student, I found that to be really interesting. And yeah, we heard about like how people were born with cleft lips and how that affects them from speaking, or being born without an ear, or other issues that could happen being born with like a messed up cochlea, and like how people learn to hear and learn to speak. And I even got to meet with one child who was born deaf and mute and had to kind of go through all of this. After that, went back, and then we ended up going to Mexico, where I learned Spanish culture, learned of kind of Mexico's United States relations, NAFTA, kind of just the history of what Mexico is, and also like how a lot of the U.S. used to be Mexico, and everything behind that. And while we were there, there was a family with the father. He did construction, and he had recently broken his leg. And so we're in this tiny town. Say yeah? Yeah, we're in this tiny town with this family, and I'm talking to this father. You know, there's just there's a little girl's birthday party. We've got Dora the Explorer, Spider-Man stuff happening everywhere. Someone's selling ice cream over here. I'm sitting there at the table, eating cake when speaking with the father, and him telling me about how he broke his leg and he feels completely useless and feels like he's not gonna be able to assist his family anymore, and like how sad he is that he's like not able to be the man, and he may not be able, he may not recover. And I let him know, it's like, I completely understand you. Like, I have broken my leg, I had shattered my leg, and I was told I would never walk again. But I'm here to let you know that as long as you push for it, you will be able to walk again. You will be able to do, you know, all the things that you used to do and support your family. And so in speaking with him again in this tiny town in the middle of Mexico in his language, it was just absolutely amazing to just speak with these people in their home and just connect with them and just feel the humanity with all of that. After that, I ended up going back to Brazil and Florianoplis. And like, this place was just paradise, like absolutely amazing. Florianoplis means basically the land of flowers in Portuguese, just like Florida does. So basically the same name, Floripa. And this island is just like an island off the coast of Brazil, all mountains just surrounding it, with beach and sand dunes all on the outside, and just mountains going up. You've got forests all covering the tops, waterfalls coming in, you've got the favelas, or like the poor people's housing that's all around here. Then you go further in, you've got like the city, you got this giant lake in the middle, there's like mountains and zip lining, and again there's beaches, there is sand dunes, there's literally everything you can think of. This place was an absolute paradise. And I absolutely loved it. And the culture I loved, the language, the food I loved. Some really interesting things for me was that I'm usually the only black guy on my trips, on my study abroads. It's very common. But not only was Brazil had more slaves go to it than any other place in the Americas. So there's more African Americans in Brazil than in the United States. And so for that, I did feel a lot more just like I could blend in Brazil. And then the best part of being in Brazil was, again, I was with this family, my host family. The mom, she sold clothing. She'd buy clothing from all over the world and sell it into Angola or even all around Brazil. The son, he imported and exported different electronics from different countries all around. The daughter was a chef. The uncle, he had just lost his job. We had the son's daughter, it's her birthday. We're all hanging around the table, just eating and laughing. There were some other exchange students. The news was on. And on one TV, the news was on, telling some scary stuff about immigrants coming in from Uruguay. And then on another one, there's just some comedy. It's just, as I'm sitting around looking, I just like realize it's like, bro, we are all the same. No matter where you go, there is fear, there is hope, there is laughter, there is someone afraid of the others, there is someone who's in love, there is someone just looking for a better job. But no matter what, we may speak a different language slightly, we may use slightly different words with a different accent, we may eat a slightly different food, but we are all the same. And it just absolutely blew my mind. It's like, no matter where you go, it's like this everywhere. It's not just like, oh, those people way over there, they're monsters, they're rats, they're barbarians, whatever you want. No, they're humans. They're just like you. They just speak a slightly different language. And that, so to this day, my online name is Todosthememe, which is, todos is Spanish for everything, everyone. The is English for the. And mem is French for the same. And so my online name is Todosthememe. We are all the same because we're just all the same. And so all of that because I studied abroad. It was studying abroad that changed my life and taught me all of these things. And the biggest thing I want to tell you is just to not be afraid, push past your fear, push past your comfort zone, and just know that there is so much out there as long as you just go for it. And there's funding. You just don't let the fear of how am I going to pay for it be the thing that stops you. I want to wind down by going back to that hospital bed. Now, if you would have come to that bed in 2012 and told me about all of these things that I could do in the next few years, do you think I would have believed you? Or at the very beginning, when my teacher told me I could study abroad, what if I would have just left it at, I can't afford that, and just let that fear be the thing that stopped me? I want you guys to leave from this talk knowing that you don't have to wait for rock bottom to take your first steps on a new path. You don't have to wait until you can no longer walk to learn how to walk. Imagine that unimaginable future and reach for it, because your comfort zone will only grow as much as you stretch it. It's not always other people who can hold you back, but often we are our most significant barriers and our fears. So I will leave you with this final photo I found on my first trip to Spain, which reads, "Cuidado con los miedos, es encantado los sueños." Be cautious of your fears. They love to steal your dreams. Thank you.